Alright guys, this is Nick with NK Landscaping, again as usual. You may notice we're in a different setting. So this is my little workshop room in my house. I got Kurt with me. You might know this as the set of a lot of NK Garage films. There's going to be a separate video about this same thing on the NK Garage channel, so you might want to see that back to back and see what's different. But anyway, in my garage here, it is a horrible mess. Don't worry about that. We got a lot going on here. The BX is in for some serious repair, but you may notice a large gap right here in anticipation of something. So over here I got a woodworking lathe. I don't use it very often. I'm not super into woodworking like my family was. My grandfather and uncle were both carpenters, and that is this shop. I'm more into repair and fabrication of metal type stuff, welding, cutting, grinding. So I'm going to try to replace that woodworking lathe with a metal lathe. We found a nice deal on Craigslist, believe it or not, for a nice metalworking lathe. And I think it's going to look real nice right in this area, which means this shelf is going to need to be modified, which, whatever, that's fine. But right now, we need to focus on going and looking at the lathe and hopefully buying it. It's coming out of a company semi-locally within an hour. They make percussive instruments, so drums, things of that nature. They also make chimes. Now, I don't know if they're getting out of the chime business or they upgraded some of their equipment, but they're getting rid of one of the lathes that they use to make the chimes. It's an old Sheldon. From the research I've done, Sheldon seems to be a good brand. I've used a metal lathe once back in college, so almost 10 years ago, and we made some stuff. I think I made a like a bearing press handle. That was one of our projects, but I've used the wood lathe a few times. I really want to get into machining, and it's something I've always wanted to do. So let's get loaded up. We're going to grab the Chevy. Here's some of the tools we're going to bring, including the floor jack. They say they have a forklift there, but we want to bring this just in case, and then we're going to go grab the enclosed trailer. All right, we are loaded up with the jacks and things. We're going to Kurt's house. The enclosed trailer is there. We just don't have the room at my house to store all this stuff because I have the larger enclosed trailer. So we're gonna go get that and then make the journey. The lathe is in Spokane, New York. It's like I said, about an hour and 20 minutes away. So we're gonna go make our way that way. Here we are at Woodstock Percussion Incorporated. They are literally at the bottom of this beautiful snow-capped mountain. So the guy told me where to go. They don't have good cell service here, I guess. So if you don't know where to go, you're gonna get lost. So we're gonna go find where we gotta go, find this lathe, check it out, and hopefully load it up and bring it back home. Alright guys, what did we pay total? I think it was just over 1,100.
Yeah, well, they added tax on it.
Yeah, we had to pay tax since this is a business.
$1,116.
$1,116, so we paid $900 even for the lathe. I negotiated, because it was originally $900 plus tax. So I asked the guy, will you do $900 even with tax? And he agreed to that. And then Kurt saw some stuff over on the shelf, and he paid an additional $200 plus tax.
Yep.
And then right as we were leaving, I saw some additional just round stock and some steel that was just sitting there. And I said, well, I could use that on the lathe. What would you sell that for? And he threw it in. So we got a load of stuff, like way more than we ever thought we were coming here to get, which, I mean, I'll take it. So yeah, we're gonna check the straps like 10 times on the way home. I've got the lathe strapped down. The thing weighs, according to what the guy said, 1,375 pounds, and I believe it. Yeah, you agree with that?
Yeah, it's heavy.
It's heavy. It's a heavy duty lathe. And it looks to be in really good shape, so. We're gonna cautiously take this thing home in the hour. Like I said, we're just gonna stop and check the straps over and over and over. I don't want that thing falling over. But yeah, then becomes the fun part of getting it out when we get home. Oh boy. Well, we'll see you there. All right, so we're back home. We're not gonna be able to get the lathe unloaded today, so we'll do that tomorrow, which for you will be very quickly. But we are gonna get the extras that we got unloaded. But before we do that, we have to get a wife reaction. First time seeing it. It's gonna be your guys' first time seeing it too, so. All right, what's behind door number 1?
Only one door.
There's 2 doors on this trailer. This trailer needs a wash too. All right, you ready?
Am I in the way?
Nope.
That's pretty much in the way.
No.
Oh,
Go ahead, walk on in. Oh, what do you think?
Where are you gonna put it?
Oh, we got a spot for it. So, you guys will see more of this tomorrow, which is gonna be quick, but we're gonna get all the rest of this stuff unloaded and check it out. Now, this is just a sneak peek of some of the extras that we got with the lathe, including this cart, 4-jaw chuck. This has drawers. I'm not gonna go into detail on this stuff. Kurt is over at NK Garage. So if you haven't already checked him out and you haven't subscribed to him, you better go do that, or else you're gonna miss out on all of this stuff. I'm here to show you the lathe, the purchase, transport, and the eventual installation in that corner. But if you want detailed on all this cool stuff, Kurt's the guy that's gonna show it to you. Alright, good morning guys. We've done a bit of rearranging. You can see I have the mule in here. I've moved all the motorcycles out of the way. I think we have a clear path through here. I need to use the mule as an anchor for the winch to pull on because I don't have anything suitable in the garage. We have the trailer backed up as close as we can reasonably get it. So now we got to get that thing back up onto dollies and start pulling it out, which is going to be fun. So let's get to it. That was not too bad. The mule did a great job of holding back all the weight of the carts, and we were able to get it out of the trailer. You can see a combo of the floor jack, a bunch of cribbing blocks. I took some of the steel that I have on the press there, and I bridged this gap, so that's something we didn't have when we got it in the trailer. And then we also had this wooden dolly for our plate compactor I threw under there. This Harbor Freight cart, let me tell you, I think this is the 400-pound capacity Harbor Freight like jack cart. We've used this for everything, transmission removals. I lift all sorts of stuff with it. It took some casualties. We lost the rubber off of the wheels. You can kind of see there. It's gonna need some new wheels, but she took it like a champ. And now it's in the garage. We have to do a bunch of stuff to get this over there. That shelf needs to be deconstructed. Mule's got to come out of here. So we're gonna do all that, and then we can actually get into this thing. My uncle built these shelves when he had this house, when he was still alive, and they were great. They're great. I love these shelves. But they run the full perimeter of the garage, making it pretty hard to store large bulky items, not only like a lathe, like an engine hoist and things. That's why I kind of have the center line of the more precision tooling. What we're trying to figure out here is the best way. The lathe is going to go in this area. So you can see I have the wood lathe over here. That's going to get booted out of here at some point. And we want the lathe in this area. So we have from that post, because we're going to leave, we're definitely leaving shelves from there down. But from here to here, we're trying to figure out what to do. Now, these lathes, when you're working on a really long piece of material, you need some room for material to stick out past the end of the lathe. So, if we were to put the lathe all the way up against the wall, you would have no room for the material to stick out. So we kind of want to scoot it this way. So we're thinking about leaving this stanchion and removing this shelf and this shelf, but still leaving this top shelf. We can adjust that, and maybe you can keep some lathe tools. You know, we can bring it down even, or even bring this one up. But we're definitely going to remove all of this from here over up to about this height. So we got to get started on that. These things are tightly packed against the wall, so it does not make it easy, but we're going to get that moved. How does that look? So basically I took out those two shelves here. I left in this rear support just because the top shelf is not going to provide any support for mainly this leg trying to kick in if you whack into it with something. So that'll stay as it is. We'll see. If we don't like that eventually, we can take this whole thing out again and just have shelf from here over. This is something interesting. This shelf is supporting my ceiling with this wood block and this thing. I don't know why my uncle did this. There used to be a lot of stuff in this attic, just thousands of pounds of wood, and the attic is bent down really bad. It's only 2x6 construction. So all that wood is gone now, and there's no excess heavy weight in the attic anymore. So I don't think I need that, but I left it in place because it locks the shelf in place really well, so keeps the shelf sturdy. So that's clean. Speaking of cleaning, Steph is over here wiping this thing down. All 70 or so years of grime, trying to get it just looking a little better. And then I'm going to inspect this thing for any issues. We're going to put it in the corner. We're going to have to level it. You always have to level a lathe before you get to using it. And then this thing needs to get fully lubricated. Plus, I need to change this plug. I don't have this style 4-prong plug in my garage. I use over here on my welder, I use this NEMA style plug. It's just a large, like standard looking plug for my 220. I might have an adapter in here somewhere, at least I can run it, but if not, we'll get that and rewire it. So let the cleaning commence. Alright guys, so you can see I got this plug swapped over, and got my extension cord from my 220. So like this side of my garage does not have any power. That's the only wall with power, so I ran my extension cord, I plugged it in, and what happened? Flipped the switch, nothing. The motor jiggled. So I called my dad, who is an electrical engineer. We walked through the wiring. I think I did everything right. Tried again, same thing, wiggled. So I got to looking a little more closely. You might notice a big gaping hole right there. That says 3-phase. The ad said 220 volt. It didn't specify what phase. I didn't even think, hey, maybe this might be a 3-phase lathe. Yeah, it's a 3-phase lathe. That is a massive 1 horsepower motor for 3-phase. 1750 RPM, I think, is what that puts out. Well, luckily, we're hoarders here. And Kurt, when I moved in this house, made me hoard this 1 horsepower 220 volt motor with 1725 RPM. Same shaft size. Only thing that we have to do here is modify that base plate, and then it should work. Might need to space it out a little bit, just because the mount is thicker than that one. We'll see. You happy that you hoarded that motor, Kurt?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Always hoard your motors.
Kurt likes hoarding American motors. That was the caveat. If it was Chinese, it went. But if it was a nice American motor, what do we do with it?
We keep it.
Keep it.
Mm-hmm. If it looks good.
If it looks good. And this one looks really nice.
It does.
I'm really glad you kept this one.
Yeah.
So somehow we have to shoehorn that motor back in there and rewire this whole thing. I don't know if that switch is still gonna work. We might just eliminate that switch and put a new switch right there on that panel. We'll see. So I've spent the last little bit. Basically, I need to adapt this motor to fit on that lathe. This, like I explained, is a 1 horsepower 230 volt motor. Similar in size to this one. They both spin the same RPM, so this should be a nice easy swap. Difference between the motors is this mount plate. So this one is a little bit smaller than this one, and apart from that, this motor ends up being taller. So if it was sitting flat on this mount, this motor is a bit taller than this one. So I'm going to need to make an adapter plate. You're gonna laugh at me. It looks really janky, but that motor is mounted, and believe it or not, the belt rides pretty true. It looks like this has the E-drive system, which I think people have had issues with online, but everything seems to be functioning properly down here. I'm not bottomed out on my adjustment. I still have all this extra room to go, so I haven't even tightened it yet. But I gotta get this motor wired up. So we're replacing the wiring going up to this switch. It used to be this guy right here. It was just a 4-wire bundle, and there's actually 6 terminals on this switch, and we need to tap all 6 of them for this single phase motor. So there's actually 6 separate, or each one of these actually has 4 cables, one being a copper ground that we're not going to use. So we get a total of 3 wires that are going to get connected to the motor, so that we have, what was this, a 2-pole?
It's a double pole, double throw for these 2, but it's actually 3 poles.
Okay.
So the bottom pole gives you just an on-off for the main power, and then the double pole, double throw section can let you crisscross to connections for the forward, reverse connections to the motor.
Yeah, that was the problem with the 4-wire. There was never a true, so when the switch was in the neutral position, it was still providing power to the motor, and the motor did not like that. So we got 2 separate wires. I got these little gland nuts on Amazon. Instead of using the metal ones, it's just a gland nut set. Nice and cheap, so that'll work. And then once we strip back this wiring, we'll wire it onto those terminals and then wire up the motor, and this should be able to run. So you can see, I believe this is called a rotary style drum switch. So we have 3 contacts here on the left and then 3 contacts here on the right, and when you turn it, it basically, you can see it pushes out those contacts in either direction. This one's set up for forward and reverse. Basically, my dad worked up a wiring schematic here, so you can see this is our motor. The wiring on here, this is the low voltage that we're not using. What we're using, this right side, is the high voltage, and we basically need to change for counterclockwise rotation, so reverse. We need to change number 8 here with number 5. So you can see in this would be the forward direction, showing the different connections, and in our case the wire colors. And then in reverse, we're just switching T8 and T5. So it should be pretty simple. Now we just have to connect the 6 different wires. So we're basically going to do, red to red for power. The next line will be black for the switched connections, and then the top will be white for the other switched connections, and then just match them up down here. So you can see we have everything wired up. Our red, black, and white on the left side, our red, black, and white on the right side. You got some schmutz on the lens. So you can see that all comes down, comes in, and then everything is wired up, we think, properly, but we'll test it out here. Alright, switch is in neutral. Alright, plug it in. Last time we did this, it made humming noises. That's a good sign. Alright, so I don't know which direction. I think this is forward. That's reverse. And this is forward. Let's see on the cover. Is that proper? Forward. Okay, there we go.
Nice.
Put the cover back on. Alright, so I'm still running off of an extension cord because, like I said, this side of the garage has no power. That's not finished, but at least factory switch. Forward direction. Neutral is completely off. There's no humming, no buzzing. Nothing is live. And reverse. That is awesome. And everything inside buttoned up nicely and looks relatively factory. I was able to utilize all the hold down clamps from the original mounting. And we just had to get a little interesting up here with some cable protection, but awesome. So after a bit of cleanup, BX is out of here. I still got a bunch of stuff in here, but kind of clean this corner up and everything. The wood lathe is about to go, so we're looking really good in here. Aside from getting permanent power, this lathe is installed. So what we have here is an early to mid 1950s Sheldon TS56B. So what this is a cabinet style lathe. As you can see, it's got a really nice cabinet underneath it. We have an 11¼ inch swing. So for those of you that don't know, swing is basically the diameter of the part you can work. So from the center line of your chuck to the ways of the bed, we have basically the radius of 11¼ to work with. So that's pretty nice. That's a pretty big swing. And then we have about 32 to 34 inches of usable bed space, I believe. So that's from the face of the chuck to the tailstock here. This machine is in pretty good shape. I'm happy with our purchase. I've had a chance to do a little bit of turning. By no means, like I said, am I a professional or anything. I'm a noob. It did come with this cart. Kurt went over this in a little more detail in the NK Garage video, but that houses all of the carbides and different cutting tools, plus the 4-jaw chuck and some collet holders and everything. Aside from that, the machine itself, like I said, is in pretty good shape. The only big issues are, don't mind the glare, you can see the ways here pretty worn. Now luckily this rear way rides on this flat surface instead of this like dovetail or angular style surface, and then the front way rides on the angular surface, not the flat. So that's nice that we're not riding over that, versus the tailstock actually rides on both the flat front and the angled rear. So I don't think that's going to be a huge issue. That is usually what happens when someone either drops the chuck or loses a part and it whacks into the ways. Aside from that, I have gone over this whole thing and cleaned it. Steph cleaned the majority of it, but I went in a little more, cleaned everything, lubricated everything. We're using just some ISO 46 hydraulic oil for the main lubrication of things, so all the little oil buttons inside of the carriage and the apron here, cross slide and all that, get the hydraulic oil treatment along with the little oil containers for the bearings. And then the ways get mobile Vactor number 2 way oil. So the machine has been fully lubricated and is in working condition. So let's take a little test cut on some rod I have in here. Just show you that this thing can cut. On top here we have a turret style tool post holder. I'll upgrade that to a quick change tool post holder. But we have 3 different carbides set up in here. So that's really nice. I'm really happy that that came with the machine. But let's take some cuts. Alright, I have the belts on the machine set up so that we're running 482 RPM on the spindle. Diameter has a big play on that. The smaller your part that you're working on, the less revolutions, or not the less revolutions, but the faster the outside edge of the material is traveling. So a large part, the outer edge of the material is going to be traveling faster as it spins around that arc. So you got to keep that in mind. I believe carbides prefer a faster speed. This is 2 out of the 8 speeds this machine is capable of. So let's just turn this apart a little bit. So we'll go for a 10 thousandths depth of cut. Engage the power feed. As you can see, that rod is pretty out of round. Now, surface finish wise, I'm not getting a great surface finish. Probably because I have not supported this end of the rod. We got quite a bit of stick out. That's probably 4 inches. Probably should be center drilled and held with the tailstock. Let's go in for a 20 thousandths depth of cut and see how it handles that. We should be able to take off that low spot on this rod here. guys, I really can't complain. For 900 bucks, I think this lathe was a great investment. I think I'm going to be able to do a lot of work with this thing. I'm really happy. I've always wanted a lathe, or a metal lathe. I had a wood lathe, but I've always wanted a metal lathe. Now I have one, and now the machinist bug has bit me. But we've been looking at mills, and we've been looking, I really want to get into the, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the arc droid for the plasma cutter. It's basically like a little CNC plasma table, except it's mini, and you can put it up on a shelf. Because as you can see, space is limited in this garage. Whenever I have a project in here, it takes up a large majority of the space, and having a huge plasma table or something just doesn't make sense for me. You know, having something that, just like the plasma cutter, can sit up on the shelf when I'm done with it would be really cool. So that's the goal. So glad that this is finally installed. We'll have to get it wired up properly, and then we're waiting on a precision level so I can fully level this thing. I've leveled it with a regular level, but should really get leveled with a precision level and then bolt it to the floor, but I'm getting there. Alright guys, I thought I ended the video, but in reality I got a call from the guy that sold us the lathe, and he basically told me his the owner of the company, or his boss, said we need to sell everything and we want to get it done fast, so we're gonna give big discounts to people that have bought already to get them back here. So I took a look at what they had to offer, and there's definitely one or two things that I'm really interested in. We might be making a bigger deal since the prices are so good, maybe to possibly resell some of the stuff. So I thought I was done with the video, go pick up what we're gonna pick up, and I'll show you what it is. So stay tuned and check it out. Guys, you are not gonna believe the things that we just got. It is, I thought we were gonna get a bandsaw, and we got a bandsaw, don't worry. You might see, we got 2 bandsaws, and you know, maybe a few other things as well. Yeah, that was another deal and a half. More than a deal and a half. I can't wait to show you the stuff that we got when we get back. Let's get this stuff home safely. So if you haven't watched Kurt's video on this, we went back a second time, yada yada yada. Most of that stuff is sold off. We kept what we kept, which if you watched this video you'd know. But my prize out of this was this Powermatic 143 metal / wood cutting bandsaw. This is a really nice quality unit. I just got done replacing the tires on it yesterday, so those are glued, brand new USA made tires. Happy about that. Otherwise, I gave this thing a really good clean down because it was just dirty from years of sitting in a factory environment. What's cool about this guy, it's just quite industrial, but on the rear, enclosed in this housing, we have a 4-speed belt drive, so we can have 4 different belt speeds, and then we have a 2-speed gearbox on the back. So this thing will cut from 40, that's right, 40 RPM, all the way up to 3,000 RPM. So this is great for cutting metal, and it's replacing my little Atlas back here, so I'm going to give that to my dad. So he has his own little bandsaw. But we're slowly upgrading the shop, and I'm really glad about it. Hear this thing run. Sounds good. It's got a little bit of a bearing hum from the motor, so I'll have to see what happens with that. It goes away after running for a second, but I've used it to cut a few pieces of metal. It works great. This combined with the lathe and all the other tools that we've been racking up are really nice. Now I want to thank you guys for watching. As usual, I love making these videos for you guys. It's really cool for me to be able to show you some of the stuff that I get to do as a business. Building a business kind of from nothing, and now kind of turning our shop into a place where we can work on our equipment and not have to pay to have other things done or wait on parts. You know what it was like through COVID. You couldn't get parts. Well, what if you were able to make them? It's just really cool.
So thank you guys for watching. I will see you on the next one. Like, comment, subscribe, all that if you want. If not, I'm cool with that. If you do like to drop, if you are going to drop a comment and you know about machining, enlighten me a little bit. What did I do wrong? You watched me on the lathe. I'm learning, and I'm open to all suggestions. I want to learn, and I want to be able to, get better at this hobby. So see you on the next one. Have a good rest of the day, guys.